Okay, everybody ready?
Ready.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the September 3rd, 2025 Bruce Township Planning Commission meeting. Our start time is 6 p.m. Dana, would you call the roll, please?
Eggleston,
Here.
D. Vinson,
Here.
J. Vinson,
Here.
Cant,
Here.
Boyce,
Here.
Barnett,
Here.
Blaylock.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Before we start the business part of our meeting, I'm going to ask you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is a public business meeting of the Planning Commission, but we do welcome public comments at various points throughout our agenda. We request that you sign in on the sheet at the table to my right along the wall if you haven't already done so. The Planning Commission is made up of 7 Bruce Township residents appointed by the board. In addition, we have a township employee, Dana Buchanan, who is the township's planning coordinator. We also have Joe Tangari, a professional planner with Giffords Webster. We will have an opportunity, as I mentioned, for public comment this evening. There are no public hearings. So for the public comment section, if you would like to speak, we would ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. You come to the podium, please state your name and address, so we have that for the record. And please address your comments to the commissioners and not anybody in the audience, please. And thank you for your participation in the meeting this evening. We're going to move on to the approval of the minutes from the August 6th PC meeting. Commissioners, you have an updated copy at your seat. It's already had some revisions. Thank you, Anne Marie and Dana, for your work to get these accurate. I know these were sent out as well ahead of time, so any other comments or clarifications or amendments? I'll give you all a minute to read those, and then if anyone would like to make a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented today.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Barnett, seconded by Commissioner Cant. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Item 5 is the approval of the agenda this evening. Commissioners, any other changes that we need to make to the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Boyce, seconded by Commissioner Barnett. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Agenda is approved. That takes us to item 6 on the agenda, which is our public comment this evening. So as I mentioned, if you'd like to come address the commissioners about anything, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. No comments? Okay. Then we will move on. Item 7 is public hearings. There are no public hearings this evening, no reviews or communications. All right, so that's going to take us to our unfinished business. We have quite a few items in here for this evening. First up is 10A, the Vitale Christina's Crossing 4061 Taft Road site plan. This was part of our August meeting. We did hear from the applicant. Commissioners, as you would recall, there was, I would just say, an incomplete applicant. We had part of the parcels included in the proposal submitted in the application, but we did need the other part. I think the agreement had not been fully executed at that time. So in front of you is the updated application. So this is covering parcels 1 and 2. Along with a letter from the owner of the second parcel. All right. Joe, anything specific we need to be aware of on this one? I know we covered a lot of this in our last meeting. Was there anything outside of the ownership clarification that needs to be addressed?
I mean, I didn't have any updates to my letter or anything. It's
Yeah.
still, I still found it to be compliant, a compliant plan, so. Nothing about the dimensions or anything like that changed. It was literally just an updated application.
This is preliminary site plan.
Yeah, yeah, we're still at preliminary, right?
So they'll be back in again.
Right, they would need to get through engineering review, which will probably be pretty quick on a site like this,
Okay.
and then come back for final approval
Joe,
by both us and the board.
Joe, did we ever get anything that identified the actual acreage of each of the 4 lots? Because it was, according to what we had in, I think, in February this year, it was 10.8 acres. So I'm just wondering how it breaks down for each of the 4.
So Emery, that's on page 1 of the site condo review that Joe did last month. Item 1, so condo lots will be 2.319 for unit 1, 2.350 unit 2, 2.081 for unit 3, and 2.686 for unit 4. So I'm going based on this document.
Thank you.
It was in, but it's from last month.
Yeah, I just can't find it.
Okay. You want my copy?
No,
Okay.
here it is. Yes, thank you.
So just as a brief reminder, this was a site condo project that was submitted, what'd you say, Anne Marie, back in February originally?
It was actually,
believe it
the
was
first
like
time was in
December.
October of 2024 preliminary, and then in February was the final. And now we're amending that and amending the master deed, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So originally brought in October of '24, same parcel, 10.8 acres. At the time, it was 2 5-acre splits.
Right.
And that was approved. There's a unique approach being used here where these are becoming, no more splits are available on this land, so they're using a site condo workaround, I guess I would call it, that has been verified as legal. That has then come back, instead of 2 5-acre lots, to be 4 2.5-acre lots roughly, based on the acreage that I just mentioned. I think the only other things beyond the ownership piece was the street trees, I think was in your previous review, Joe.
They do technically need 1 per lot. yeah.
Yep,
And then also they're paying into the sidewalk fund.
paying in
rather
the
than
sidewalk fund.
Adding sidewalks in an area where there are none.
Okay. Commissioners, any other comments or questions?
Joe, were you able to verify with the attorney the information you gave last month about this being a requirement under the Planning and Zoning and Condominium Act?
It's the Condominium Act primarily, yeah, but also the Planning and Zoning Act requires that permitted uses be approved if they're compliant, yeah.
Thank you.
And these 4 lots, they all meet or exceed the frontage, depth,
That's right.
and square footage area for the R1 zoning district in that area. So this is not a special land use.
That's right, yeah.
Hearing no other questions or comments, does anybody, we do need to make a motion to
I'll take a-
proceed this
I'll
site
take-
plan review?
I'll take a stab at it.
Okay.
I'd like to submit a motion recommending to the board, or is this a recommendation?
This
to the board?
is just
us.
you, it's a recommendation when they come back for final.
Okay, so it's for preliminary site plan approval for the applicant and parcel numbers, come on, where are they here? Yeah, parcel numbers 14-01-29-175-001 and parcel 14-01-29-175-002 for that net division to result in 4 parcels that will meet the R1 zoning district requirement in that area. And anything else to add?
Street
Street trees.
I'm sorry?
Street tree?
Yeah, street tree. Joe, what's the specific language?
It's 1 per lot.
Yeah, requiring 1 street tree per lot.
Sidewalk fund.
And sidewalk fund.
Paying into the sidewalk fund in lieu of construction of the
Okay,
sidewalk.
so the applicants agreed to pay into the sidewalk fund. Got it?
Yes,
Okay.
I have a quick question. The parcel numbers that you said based off of the application are different than the parcel numbers on Joe's review?
Oh, I think, Joe, you still had this is the old parcel.
Oh, it
number.
might be the old parcel numbers,
Yeah.
yeah, because I don't think they were recorded.
So
when I-
the parcel number I read off
Yeah.
the application, those numbers should be correct then?
The ones on the application should be correct, because the recording happened between now and
Yeah.
then.
Okay.
And those were the
Just wanna make
same numbers that we had in our minutes from last month.
Okay, perfect. Good.
I have one suggestion, and I don't know if we need to do this or not, but I'm looking at the motion we made last year at preliminary. And we said, future driveways and buildings will comply with applicable township ordinances, and the buildings will be located within the required building envelope.
That should be a given, but I don't have any objection to you including it.
It's up to you. It's your
Okay,
motion.
fine. I have no objection to including it in the motion.
Did you capture that, Dana?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second.
We got a motion by Commissioner Hagelstein, seconded by Commissioner Cant. Any other discussion? Dana, would you call the roll, please?
Blaylock? Blaylock?
Yes.
Hagelstein?
Yes?
Cant?
Yes.
Boyce?
Yes.
Barnett?
Yes,
D. Vinson?
Yes.
And J. Vinson?
Yes. Motion approved. All right, takes us to item 10B, which is the newbie rezoning request for 275 Gates. This was also postponed from August. Commissioners, you have in your packet a conditional, or proposed conditions that the applicant has provided for the rezoning request. So again, like the last one, I don't think we need to go back and hash all aspects of this proposed rezoning. I think we did that in the August meeting. I think the question at the time was just a general concern by commissioners that the unconditional rezoning requests could lead to unintended uses of the land in the future. So the applicant did opt to look at that and has elected to submit a conditional rezoning to basically use the property limited to the operations of chocolate and ice cream shop businesses, with some details below in terms of what that means. And so you've had a chance to look at this, hopefully. I guess any questions, comments from commissioners?
I do have one comment, if I may.
Yep, please do.
I just want to know, so it says permitted uses under rezoning, and they're looking for C1 zoning here. And it says, kind of what their operations are. So there's some chocolate making and then also the retail element of it. And we've determined that that's all okay in the C1 district. They also note that uses permitted under R1B shall remain applicable to the property. And normally that would be a problem because you can't add uses from another district to the district that you're requesting. But in this case, the R1B uses are actually permitted in C1 because C1 has a provision that says all uses permitted in the adjacent or abutting residential district are permitted in C1. So I just wanted to note that everything that you can do on the property now, you can still do on the property under this request. They're just adding these specific things that they want to be doing with the property, which they would need the C1 zoning for. I just wanted there to be some clarity about that and why it actually works okay.
Jared?
Yep.
Are we allowed to ask questions about what was submitted?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I don't, I'm a bit confused about how this was structured. On the first page, you have, I think, 5 bullet points.
Yep. This is Zoe Grenfell with Dalton and Talmadge, here on behalf of
Yes.
Chris and Jessica Newby.
Thank you.
Sorry, what was your
And-
question?
You authored this, right?
Yes, our firm, yep.
Yeah. So on the first page, there are 5 bullet points. Are those our conditions, correct?
Those were, we kind of fleshed those out in the last public hearing. We also submitted these already, these specifications in the development impact statement. So I didn't think they were necessary to be formal proposed conditions because they were already submitted in our development impact statement.
I think we usually include everything when we're going to do a conditional, correct?
In the past, that's
In the past.
how.
Okay.
So there wouldn't be an issue of including these?
No.
Okay, thank you. That was the first one. The second one, there were, and I watched the video 3 times to make sure I had this right, so I should have it right. But there were several verbal stipulations that were made at the meeting, and I am just wondering myself whether those are conditions or if they're off the table now. Okay?
Could you?
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. One of them was concerning the attendees for classes and demonstrations. I believe it was stated that there would be 30 max.
I know we put a provision in about the workshop and classes. Does the commission, would they like a number range between
I
those?
don't know. I'm just asking you if you intended to put that in or drop it out.
We kind of, the provision in there just about the workshop classes, that's what we meant to submit. But if the commission is looking for a number range, I'm sure we are happy to
Okay.
provide that.
Let me just go through the list.
Yeah.
There was also a stipulation regarding the use of the range and the range hood. and we were told that the only cooking that was going to be taking place in the facility would be for the cooking of caramel. Is that still?
I think to be more specific, no frying for restaurants. We don't want any oil involved. Does that make sense? So when someone mentioned they had experience with restaurants before, we
Yes.
aren't doing any frying at all.
No, I understand that. But what you said was you were the only exhaust that was going to be coming out of the,
We cook a lot of caramel, yes.
would be the caramel. So you're not cooking anything else in there?
Oh, maybe hard candy. It's sugar, all sugar.
Okay, so that's different. That's fine. I'm
I'm
glad
not sure what else you would mean, what would do in a kettle like that.
I'm just trying to make sure what's
Yeah.
going to happen in there. Okay. Another one is, you said there was going to be no indoor seating. Is that still a stipulation, something, that's going to happen?
I believe so. There, I know the format, you might have like just a waiting.
Well, we have older people who need to sit on a chair.
That's not what
Is
I'm-
this a requirement? I'm not sure what you're asking.
I'm asking is, are you going to be serving like ice cream, and will there be a place for people to sit down inside to eat?
Maybe a couple of chairs like I had at the soda fountain. We have older people who need to sit. I can't promise you that there will be 0 chairs. I don't know how to state that. I think what I'm looking, I mean, we've already identified how much people traffic we already get. It's not going to be much more.
I'm just asking a question.
I know, I'm just not sure how to answer.
That's fine.
No chairs.
I understand. There was also something, and this may have been another thing that was in the impact statement. So what's important to me, and perhaps others here, is that you made a representation that there would be no external changes or alterations to the building.
Yes, besides maintenance work, and I know improvements to the roof, painting,
Yeah.
there is no planned construction or redevelopment.
Okay, I had a couple more questions, but I'll let somebody else take a chance.
I have a couple questions. Do you make ice cream at this time?
Well, I don't have a license or a facility to do that. but we did.
Do you plan to make ice cream? Ice cream is listed here?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I have an
that,
ice cream machine, yes.
okay, that is your plan. What kind of impact do you think the selling of ice cream is going to have on your business? So you gave us numbers before for chocolate sales, but if you're going to be doing ice cream, that's pretty intensive usually. I mean, if I look at the Dairy Queen, they're doing hundreds of people a night.
Correct.
I know from our impact, we collected data that we submitted to the commission with our impact statement.
Correct.
And I know, how many years have you guys been including ice cream with your?
46 years, even at the ice cream saloon, when it was serving in downtown.
So they've been doing that
Right.
as part of their business operations. As you saw from our data that they collected over the past, 5 years or so, it was still a minimum, foot traffic or, in-vehicle traffic at the actual business. They plan to keep the same type of business operations at this new location.
Were you doing ice cream at this last location? I know when you were in town you were, but when you were south of town, were you doing ice cream there?
In Washington,
Yeah.
when they're at 31 in
Yeah.
the night, we did some, yes.
Okay. And then a question for Joe. It says permitted uses under R1B. Does that mean someone can live in that building? It's a commercial building?
Strictly speaking, a single-family home would be permitted. It would have to meet the standards for, like building code standards for a home.
And how would the township ensure that? Because I think someone's living there now, it appears to be. I don't know that, but it appears. It's R1B right now, so.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's probable that it does meet the building code standards for, it's probably got a bathroom and a kitchen and other things that you would need to have a dwelling unit. But yeah, that's really, a single householding unit could live in there if they wanted to.
Can they live in there, like, along with the commercial operation?
We don't typically permit the mixing of uses in a single building under our zoning, so.
So it could either be the candy shop but it can't be both?
Right.
Okay.
There's a separate apartment in that building, totally separate from the restaurant.
But it's within the building itself, so that whole building can only have one use, is what Joe's saying.
He also said that you could use everything that was in the R1B zoning along with the commercial zone. He said that.
Yeah, that's not what he just said.
That's not what he just said.
The buildings are single use, so there can't be a residence and a commercial enterprise, if I understand what you're saying.
That's what our zoning says. yeah.
That's what the zoning says, okay.
So my question would be, when it was zoned for the school and they had someone living there, how did they do that?
I don't know, I wasn't a part of the board at that time, I wasn't a part of the planning commission, I have no idea that that was the case.
A long time.
Yeah, I don't know that.
R1B. I mean, the school was
That's
under
true.
R1B.
So under R1B, it could be, someone could live there. Okay, that's it for me for now.
Okay. Other comments or questions from commissioners?
I've got a question. Is there any coloring used in your caramel?
No, we make most everything from scratch. No
Okay.
sugar.
Okay. So I've done some reading recently. I'm asking the question is that appears like there's a health risk from colorings added to caramels.
We did provide in our submitted proposed conditions under fire code and kitchen compliance that, I mean, they are going to maintain compliance with applicable, health code, building code. So I'm sure that would also fall under, making sure the product they're selling would comply with
Well,
applicable health code.
I don't know whether this is relevant to the rezoning request.
well, where I'm going at with Jared is that, it's their prior operations. One of them, I believe, was on the west side, Van Dyke, and so the closest residences rather, were probably, 800 feet away, something like that. Then your most latest operation, what's behind it is open field. And so, at the very least, the smells have an opportunity to dilute and not be as strong, so to speak. So, the area, it's in a pretty tight spaced residential district. So, what might be pleasing to one may be offensive to another. Just throwing it out there.
And I know from the last public hearing, we had a lot of positive public comments from immediate neighbors around that, would welcome a chocolate shop, next door, right down the street. We didn't really have any opposition with respect to odor. And I know we emphasized in our impact statement that odor has not been an issue in their prior business operations. It is not anticipated. And they would also be subject to the same, nuisance regulations as well in this local area. That would not change from this rezoning request. So that would not alleviate from any nuisance or odor, but we are confident that odor will not be an issue.
We're severely licensed by the health department and the Department of Agriculture, and they're on top of that coloring already. We don't even do it. But it is, in the future, they have about a year and a half to people to get it out of their inventory, but we don't even use it.
Okay, so you're aware of the health risk.
I have a few more.
Okay.
I'm not a retailer, so I'm not sure what you mean, but you did put that, acknowledge that during the holiday season, there will be an uptick in business. What holidays are you talking about?
Christmas, Easter, and Valentine's Day. Christmas is the biggest, Easter's the second. Valentine's is not very busy, but it's constant.
Okay. And then when there are events, not your events, but events going around, like the Peach Festival, I mean, is that a holiday?
I think it's a holiday.
For us, it's not that busy.
They use our backyard for the Peach Festival parade setup.
I'm just asking if you intend to be open during the Peach
They're already using
Festival.
it for commercial uses right now. I'm sorry that I'm a little short, but we have a lot of questions that aren't appropriate for zoning. And frankly, we have enough parking lot to do a lot of things. We have a double wide driveway. It's not a residential building. It's never been a residential building. And we're asking for compliance for the building. In reality, if it doesn't get commercial, really it's kind of punitive of the township to make a commercial building with a parking lot for a backyard, a residential building. It has no bathroom, or no shower, no bath in the building except for the apartment that's upstairs, which is totally separate and a separate entrance. And in Romeo, you have second floor apartments in a commercial zone. So both of those things are a little bit sketchy to me, but the apartment has a totally different entrance than the commercial. We're asking for commercial for our business. It's a uptick for the community to have two parks, a parking lot that's used by multiple different people and organizations, including the Parks and Rec, including a soccer league that runs in our backyard. And it's always filled with, all day long, because I'm in the building now a lot, filled with people going to lunch, sitting in the parking lot, sitting at the park, doing all kinds of things in our parking lot, which I'm super glad about. But to say it's a resident is a little ridiculous. And I understand the board's position. I understand about the commercial and what can go on. But this business and this one, we put additional conditions in for commercial so that if we sell the building, then it can go back to in front of the board before it can be commercial again. So that was the questions that was leading last time. And now I'm getting different questions about the operations of the business, which isn't, I mean, it's not a big deal, but how I make my caramel? It's not, it's kind of funny. The only people that are there, there's one house that's right next door, and by the way, it's rented by my son. Then there's a church, and then there's a parishioner, and that's almost 300 feet away. There's a park, and then the next house in the back is probably 1,000 feet. On this side, Bruce Township Hall, the fire station, which by the way has a lot of noises all the times of the day. All the times of the day. So, I don't mean to be rude, and I really, really don't. And it's probably not really even appropriate for me, but we just want the commercial establishment so we can operate our business. If we get delayed again, it's really gonna affect our business for Christmas, because we need to make some stuff, and we've already been delayed twice. Once we've been off the agenda, second one we've been delayed, which I understand you have questions. But I think we've answered a lot of the questions, and we've made concessions. We've made real concessions for ourselves, and the sale of the building if we ever have to make it. Then it comes back to the governmental authority to be approved again. So, that's my statement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right, commissioners, other questions or comments?
So with these conditions, if we approved it, what could potentially happen then with the church? Could they come in and ask for their own conditional rezoning with something completely different? And would they have any basis to do that? Would this be setting us up for potential issues, or does this protect us from potential issues?
It would be an entirely separate request.
Yeah.
I mean, and really, I mean, anything would be an entirely separate request. If someone wanted to do something different with this building that wasn't permitted in R1B and wasn't covered in the specific thing that was laid out in the rezoning request and conditions, they'd basically be starting over and saying, well, here's what I want to do, and they'd probably be drafting their own set of conditions.
But Joe, your comments are specific to basically the applicant's property. If I'm understanding Mandy correctly, you stop me if I'm not understanding correctly, I think your inquiry was regarding other lots, what they could do based on if this were approved, is
Take
that correct?
precedent, like,
Yeah, other lots along gates between, basically east of the fire hall up to and including the church.
Sure, yeah, and, I mean, I guess it's sort of the same answer, because, yeah, you have to take each one on its own, and, you know, if it was, let's say, the house next door, it's a different situation, it's a smaller lot, it's a house now, you'd be looking at a different set of circumstances. So I always caution planning commissions from saying that they're going to be setting precedent with a decision, because if you're clear enough in your reasoning for your decision, you shouldn't be setting precedent. If you make a broad decision without supporting rationale, then you can be setting precedent. But if you're making a very targeted and specific decision, then you should be avoiding setting precedent that can be broadly applied. I mean, anybody can come in and ask for a rezoning of any parcel that they have an interest in at any time. That doesn't mean they're going to get it. Yeah, you do have to take each case separately, and each case has its own set of circumstances that has to be looked at. And the request has to be looked at in light of those circumstances.
and another question, this is a recommendation to the board?
That's correct.
Who would have the final say? Okay.
All right, any other questions? And if not, is there a motion?
A question, Anne Marie, the email that we were forwarded from Joe with some responses, is there anything in there that we should recap about the conditions presented? Because I think some of it was redundant.
I don't know that there's,
I don't think I-
yeah, I mean, there's nothing in the conditions that, like, concerns me or,
Okay.
Right, it was mainly ensuring that the bullet points were conditions.
right, yeah.
Okay.
Are you working on something, Anne Marie, or are you working on something, or do you want me to?
Oh, no,
Okay.
I'm just taking notes, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry,
I
just
wasn't
taking
sure.
notes.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion, and then, I can react to that. I'm going to make a recommendation to the board to approve a rezoning request for 275 East Gate Street from R1B to C1, subject to the conditions submitted by the applicant, that this property would be, the use of this property would be limited exclusively to the operations of a chocolate and ice cream shop business, including, and I'm not going to read these verbatim, but Dana, you have the the document to confirm manufacturing of product associated with the applicant's current operations, retail sales of chocolate ice cream related specialty products, podcast production, workshops, educational classes, shipments and deliveries, and storage of product, equipment, and utilities. Additionally, these conditions shall run with the land and be binding upon the applicants, all future owners, successors, and assigns of the property. Any future sales, lease, and transfer of the property shall remain subject to the conditions approved by the planning commission. And no purchaser or transferee shall be permitted to alter or expand the use of the property beyond the scope expressly authorized by the planning commission without approval from Bruce Township Board of Trustees. The reasonings for the rezoning recommendation is previous non-residential uses on this property as a past daycare facility, support for this type of use by local residents who've come and speak in favor and support of this business, surrounded by other non-residential uses such as the Township Hall and Fellowship Church. Also because of the no planned reconstruction or redevelopment of the property, that will be used as is. Also, this property is used for other township activities like residents who go to use the park. And I think that is it.
I have a question for, I know they said no planned reconstruction or additions. Is that a problem for us? Because then they still could do whatever they want. It's just because it's not planned now, does it mean it wouldn't be planned in the future?
Joe, any guidance on that?
Locating the language.
Right, meaning if we approve that, they could tear the whole building down and build something else, if they wanted to. Not that they plan on it, but
Plans change.
the plans change. Or they can.
The way it's worded in the conditions is more, more final than that. Planned was the language that you were using in the motion? Is that-
Yeah, that's right.
The language is more final than that in the, so I might refer to the language of the conditional agreement rather than saying planned, because they're basically saying you can't alter it or expand it beyond the scope expressly authorized by Bruce Township. So I would say that they're kind of covering that in the conditions already, but you're citing it as a reason that you're comfortable with the rezoning.
So you're saying item E?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're citing it as a reason that you think the rezoning is approvable?
Yes.
And they're actually making it a condition of the rezoning.
Well, actually, they're making it a condition if
For a
they sell
purchaser.
it,
Yeah.
not for themselves.
Right, that section is under sale or transfer of the property specifically.
Oh, sure.
And I'm not sure that's talking about the building specifically.
No, it's talking about business.
It's not like
a business. It's the use of the property.
Expanding use. reading through to see if anything else covers it.
So I think the question is, one of the justifications was no planned reconstruction or redevelopment, and is there a better way to describe that? Or,
Well, I don't think it's in the proposal.
right, it's not a condition that's been offered, I guess,
Right.
based on what this document says.
Right.
I think that would tie their hands if they wanted to, like, create a nicer entryway, because they might want to put a covered overhang with a porch or something, and by saying they can't alter the building, that would limit the ability to make it more presentable. You know, you think about some of the buildings they build now with the timber frame type entryway to dress them up.
I mean, I do think if they start modifying the site, they'd have to come in for site plan approval.
Right, yeah.
Of course, if they're doing compliant work, then, but they're,
I guess I'm not thinking little things like that, but what if they wanted to put an addition on? Or they had an investor come in and they wanted to knock the whole thing down and build something very commercial looking in the residential area.
I have that on my list too.
It's just, if we're doing a conditional rezoning, we want to cover all our bases.
I think to do something like that, there's other locations available that would be more cost effective,
Probably.
you know, than just a small parcel of land.
So was that it on your motion, Jared?
Yeah, that was the motion.
I'll second the motion if that's what we're waiting for.
Okay, so motion by Commissioner Vincent, seconded by Commissioner Cant. Is there discussion?
Did we want to add more reasons if you were going to approve it?
I'm open to adding more reasons if you have additional ones you'd like to add.
That the R1B uses are limiting with the property as it is? Like, it's really not realistic to build a house there. So it's limited to just the special land uses for the district?
Okay.
Maybe.
I think it's also relevant that they're still available on the site, so if, say, the church took the property back at some point in the future, they could use it for their church operations or something like that.
So another justification would be limited R1B options on this parcel due to the surrounding,
Would they be able to build another building on the property with the existing building there? I don't think that would be acceptable.
No. No, I mean, depending on the size, I'm not
No.
really sure about.
And the
but-
lot is small, it's not even, what is
Yeah.
it, 3/4, 2/3 of an acre?
That'd be awfully difficult.
Yeah.
Joe, what was the other thing you said?
Just noting that the continued availability of R1B uses on the property allows for, reversion to, other uses that are already available on the site.
So I would amend that to be, the continued R1B uses allows for revisions for other existing uses on the site.
So I have a question with regard to clarification on the motion. In the motion that was made, the R1C, or I'm sorry, the C1 classification is exclusively for the operation of a chocolate and ice cream shop business. So that means there is not going to be a residence there.
Right, the rezoning request is the C1.
C1.
Right.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? If not, we will go to roll call.
Randy.
Randy agrees to.
Seconded the motion.
You agree to the modifications to the motion?
Yeah, and I'll second the modifications as well.
All right, Dana, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Hagelstein,
No.
Blaylock,
Yes.
Jay Vinson,
Yes.
Cant,
Yes.
Boyce,
No.
Barnett,
No.
D. Vinson.
No.
Motion fails. Okay, so we still have to make a decision. That would be to deny the rezoning request or change the motion.
I'll be honest, I'm on the fence on this one. I see how it could work in the space and how it would be hard to do other things there unless it was contained on as a daycare or school. I also see some implications for approving it, and I know this is a tough one for me.
Jared, just to keep us moving, since you seem to be asking for another motion, at least I'll get it out there, and then we can chew on it to see if that is, something that we want to vote on. Is that all right?
Sure,
All right.
gotta do something.
I will make a motion to deny the rezoning request, conditional rezoning request that's been submitted for property located at 275 East Gates for the following reasons. The C1 designation is contrary to the existing established land use pattern and the existing master plan in place for 20 years. The zoning map and future land use maps confine existing and planned commercial development to Van Dyke Road and the north side of the roundabout at 33 and McKay. And that includes expansion, if ever, when market dictates, and we need additional commercial. The second is that the proposed rezoning is not a reasonable alternative to the future land use map. It amounts to a 4-step zoning jump, and even with the condition, it effectively embeds a commercial operation in the middle of a residential district. Retail is not a compatible use to surrounding areas near East Gates. Number 3, the petitioner has failed to demonstrate that the property is either unsuitable for use as zoned or unmarketable as zoned. Just saying so doesn't make the case. In fact, the usage of the building has been non-commercial, non-retail for almost 30 years, and its zoning is R1B allowed for consistent use for such of those years, all but a few, over all those decades. The property can be used as zoned even by the church, which was given a special land use in 2012 to use this building for its ministry. Number 4, there are other existing and vacant commercial properties in the township that are available for this type of operation. There are also planned future commercial properties that could include this use. Number 5, the petitioner has failed to demonstrate a need for a chocolate shop in this particular location. Number 6, the rezoning would result in a spot zoning and would create a negative precedent, potentially for other R1B properties along this stretch of the road. And lastly, East Gates is a 22-foot wide residential street. It's not intended to support commercial traffic that could increase for this owner even, or for another commercial business with conditions attached on East Gates.
Okay. Motion from Commissioner Boyce. Is there a second?
Hearing no objection or input, I'll second.
Or we do that after we get a second? So there's seconded by Commissioner Hagelstein.
Okay.
Any other discussion? I certainly understand some of the points you made. I don't see how this property is usable as is in the current zoning. I think the use as it has been are essentially commercial as a daycare. A business that is getting paid to watch people's children is, to me, a commercial business.
It's
So-
allowed as a special land use.
I understand, and I think there's other uses in that R1B district that are as intensive or worse than what's being proposed here in a conditional rezoning request, so.
So I kind of find myself with Mandy. I don't think that what we've been presented with here is clear enough or straightforward enough that I could support it in its initial. I don't think it's not that I can't support it, I just couldn't support it the way it was.
I think the last time we sat here, we're talking about the hangup was the unconditional. We sent them back to address the problem. They came back, they put the unconditional on there. They did what we basically asked them to do. I think this is good for the township. We've had people who do back it up. They've done what we asked them to do. They've established themselves in the community for a number of years. I believe this is what Bruce Township would want to have. And again, have they not done their part? Have they not? We're trying to pick holes in their operation, but they've really shown us no flaws. There's no, I don't think any ill intent. I don't think there's any covert operations behind the scene where they're trying to dupe us. I don't see that happening. They've done what we've asked them to do. I would like to see them bring it in. I think this is something that the township, I think, would benefit by. And to pick apart this, what if, I don't see it. I think we're going too far. We're looking too deep into something that's not there.
Got 4 words: great idea, wrong location.
Any other comments? Dana, would you call a roll, please?
Can't.
No.
Boyce.
Yes.
Barnett.
Yes.
D. Vinson.
No.
Hagelstein.
Yes.
Blaylock.
No.
J. Vinson.
No. Motion fails. Okay, so we're back at the commission. We've got a motion to approve that failed 4-3, and we've got a motion to deny that failed 4-3. Commissioner Vinson, you were the one that changed your vote. I guess, is there something that you would want to see or didn't see that would give us some direction of where to go next?
Well, I guess it's been mentioned about all of the things that are planned. Hours of operation are planned, so that's not firm. Holidays, we don't know what the hours are going to change to. The use of semi-trucks is not anticipated, but there could be semi-trucks in there. We could be doing that. The applicants are, it doesn't seem at all responsive to the fact that a commercial building can't have a residence in it. You know, so these things are just red flags to me, that they're not anticipating seating, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be seating. You know, there's too many things just left hanging where they could just come back and say, well, you know, we didn't plan on it, but now we're doing it. So that's really the sticking point for me, is the fact that it's not well defined.
At this time, am I allowed to add in, or is it?
What, yeah, if you want to come up here, obviously you've heard a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
You know, I think part of this could be resolved through some additional conditions if that was on the table, but we can't
Yeah.
tell you what those are, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to your point, Commissioner, we included this language because I think we all know a small business owner, and running a small business, I mean, in the realm of possibilities, I don't want to unfairly, restrict the newbies with their operations. That's why we kind of, we don't have semi-trucks that are anticipated, but I don't know, say, God forbid, there's a natural disaster or something uncontrollable that happens to their parking lot, and we need a big truck to come in and, put in new cement on the parking lot. So that language is crafted because of just, again, in the realm of possibilities, the uncontrollable, rare circumstances that could happen. I don't want to unfairly restrict them so they would have their hands tied, for events that were out of their control. If it helps better with this condition with the trucks to say that there will be no semi-trailer trucks used for, the regular course of business operations, if that could help, we certainly can make that. I just didn't want to say flat out, they will not have any use of semi-truck trailers, because again, there could just be these rare, uncontrollable circumstances that happen. If that kind of helps elaborate to that point.
Yeah, and it might not even be within their control, but if they're making product for two locations,
Yeah.
the likelihood that the size of deliveries is going to go up, It's not really a good place for semi-trucks. It's as Commissioner Boyce said, it's a real small street. That's just a minor concern. It just points out that these variables, things that aren't defined, can come back to create problems. That's just how I see it.
Yep, very fair. And I mean, I'm sure they're open.
Well, they can't control if the truck that brings their chocolate, or they can't control what that is, really.
But if it fits inside of your parking lot, 100%, what's the issue? I'm not trying to defy the board, but if it fits inside your parking lot, and they're not parking on the road like every other Amazon dealer that parks right on the road, we have a parking lot. In fact, trucks turn around in there all day long.
Well, and the semi-truck trailer I'm assuming we're describing the huge semi, that is.
It says semi.
That would be for, a semi-trailer, those would not.
Box trucks are normal delivery.
Yeah, those wouldn't, the semis would certainly not be used for a small business.
Generally, 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch. And generally, we sell in packets of 6 and 12, sometimes a box of 20. which is this big. We're not making manufactured parts for automobiles. We're making chocolate.
So we could use stricter language as a condition to say that they will not be using semi-trailer trucks for their business operations.
That was just an example of the variables that are here, along with
Yeah.
the planned hours and the no planned seating and the,
Well, with
there's just too many variables for me.
Yeah, but with the business hours, they could, if they wanted to open up earlier at 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., that would be unfairly restrictive if they wanted to minimally change their hours in the future, which I don't think would cause a huge disruption in, the daily lives of the surrounding neighbors. And again, we gave a range of 2 to 5 employees. I think that's reasonable. It's not going to be a restaurant. This is a chocolate shop. We described in our development impact statement that there wouldn't be any, indoor dining. If there's any other clarification I can provide.
Right, every bullet point here has, none of it is concrete, so. It's planned, expected, it may, it's not anticipated.
Mandy, I was thinking of that myself, and I did make a motion to not approve it, but I was very interested, and I had a reason for asking the questions that I did. Every other rezoning we've had in the past 5 years, there have been a long list of definitive, absolutely locked down conditions. And we also didn't approve them in just one meeting. I mean, I appreciate that maybe you were not there, you didn't want us to ask any more questions, which is fine, but this is how we've done it before, is, in fact, I think the last one, we had 4 meetings at this forum, 2 at the board. In the case of 156 West Gates, that was somewhere in the neighborhood of 14 meetings.
Right. And things like the business hours, in my opinion, to not overly restrict, I would think, say, when you won't operate instead of when you will, to give that wiggle room and still have a definitive condition as an example of a workaround.
You gotta be careful on the restriction. Like I said, if this is a business, it's important for them to be profitable. If they run a business, it doesn't help anybody. If for some reason they come across a financial crisis where they need to expand their hours, to be restrictive does not
But to
help
6
them,
a.m.?
and then ultimately does not help the community. So, I'm not big on the restrictions, like I said, for business.
Right.
We want them to be a good business, a profitable business.
So you're happy with the conditions as presented?
I am, I'll tell you why. Because there's a saying I use, reputation is built on what you've done, not what you're going to do. So their reputation carries more weight than somebody who comes here who's never been here before and says, I'm gonna do all these things. Their reputation has shown that they're big, been solid. I have no reason to believe that they won't be in the future.
What about
So-
when their son takes over?
I
Or when somebody
I
else
have
takes over?
There's no reason for me to believe that they wouldn't do it. Even if they've come here, they've actually put on here that if they were to move, the zoning were to go back. They put it in there. They put some checks and balances in there.
But what if they sell their business?
And then it reverts back.
If they sold their chocolate shop to the new owner, it would revert back? Is that true?
If they make the major changes, that would,
Well, I want to confirm that.
again, that would,
We did put a
We have no
provision
reason-
under subsection C under the sale or transfer that no purchaser or transferee shall be permitted to alter or expand the use of the property beyond the scope expressly authorized by the planning commission
Which
without
is
prior
just using it
approval.
for a chocolate shop or an ice cream shop. But that doesn't really address some of these things, in my opinion.
Well, and I agree, Mandy. That's a great example. I mean, somebody else could buy the business intact, and if this is, whatever we end up with is what we have here, and it's not locked down, well, then they can do what they choose. Which is why we have always been so careful with what we're putting in conditional rezoning agreements.
We've learned this at McKay and 33 Mile, when a developer came in and they took what they could build and they put it in a small corner, and then they had all this other land that we then had to approve something else for, because we didn't put specific enough conditions, or we didn't make it clear enough on our end.
Right, and when you talk about restricting a business, and I understand that, I've not run one, but it's common sense. The issue here is that it is not a commercial property. So we have to look at it carefully. It's conditional rezoning. If they chose to open up in any number of other places that we have available for them to do this kind of business, they wouldn't even be here. They could do whatever they wanted.
Well, with respect to the prior use as a daycare center, I know that was a focal point in our submissions for the development impact statement. And you saw with our foot traffic data, I mean, that it did not even hold a light to the prior volume of people on the property for the daycare center and school. And so this would be, I mean, again, minimal compared to that traffic and volume of people in and out of that property for the daycare center and school. That also helps
The daycare is
alleviate.
permitted under the
Yes.
zoning ordinance.
Yes, but just kind of looking at the substance of the prior use.
So I'm going to make a recommendation, and that is that we table this for later in this meeting. So we're not going to postpone it. You don't have to accept this recommendation, but that would give you a chance to talk with your clients and see if there are other, you've heard all the feedback.
Yep.
Right? There's some support for, there's some support against.
Yep.
We may be able to get something if there was more tighter conditions. I don't
Okay.
know that for a fact, but this would at least, we would move you down the agenda until after the lighting discussion. We would come back and hear if there's any other statements you want to make. What's that, Joe?
Just take it off the table at that point.
Right. We'll untable it and try to get to some resolution.
Thank you
Can I
all
add
for your
one more
feedback.
thing before we end this discussion?
Sure.
So another one of the variables is on A2, it says, in related specialty food items. So this is variable, this could become a health food store. Ice cream, chocolate, ice cream and health food store, and we would have nothing to say about it. Because it doesn't specify what those specialty food items are, or how they'll be sold, or to what
Exactly.
extent. So this is just one of the variables that I'm talking about. There's a lot of just open-ended stuff in here. And if that was tightened up, it's something I could support if it was tightened up.
That was one of my questions as well.
Thank you for your feedback, everyone.
Joe, do we need to vote to table?
You should have a motion, a second, and a vote to
All right.
table to later.
Before you go ahead with that, I have one thing to ask. My objection centers on a commercial business in a residential district. We heard comments about, there was no objection. We did hear objection at the last meeting from a resident, at least one resident that lived on the Romeo side. So this is not just Bruce Township. This is Romeo as well. And their concerns should not be discounted. They are the higher density residential component along this thoroughfare. And like I said, great idea, but I just can't get behind the commercial operation in that very highly high-density residential, especially on the south side of Gates.
Okay. So I make a motion to table the rezoning request for 275 Gates, East Gates, until after item 10C. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Vincent, seconded by Blaylock. The roll call or just verbal?
You can do that by acclamation.
Acclamation. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. All right, we'll see you back in a few. Okay, so commissioners, we're going to move on to 10C, which is the lighting memo. All right, Joe, do you want to kick us off here?
Sure. So I've included the current language for lighting in here and a series of consideration items after that. I haven't actually touched the language yet because I wanted to get through a discussion with this board, see which way we were leaning on everything, and then actually change the language. And I know Commissioner Eggleston has a video he'd like to share with the group as well. I'll go through my considerations and then maybe we'll do that and then we'll open up the floor.
Okay.
So I started the considerations with color temperature. I included a graphic in here from Casa de Luz, which is a lighting manufacturer. There are a lot of different ways that I've seen this represented online, but this is one example that kind of shows the general color of each color temperature, what it looks like. And I find this one to be very similar to the others, so I thought it was representative. So you can see we're getting cooler and bluer as we get higher on the color temperature scale, and we're getting warmer and more orange as we go to the low end of the color temperature scale. And the unit is called Kelvin, but in general, lower the number, the more yellow and less intense the light. So that's one thing that we can discuss. Are we interested in providing a standard for color temperature in our lighting regulations? Waivers is another one. So I wanted to point to a case that we recently had where a uniformity ratio actually required more lighting on a site due to the need to light an entire area that was intended for truck maneuvering, which kind of runs counter to the township's overall goal of less lighting. So wanted to look at the possibility of building in some level of ability to waive standards. It would make the most sense in areas where no members of the public are expected to be present, like a rear storage area rather than a commercial parking lot. The ordinance could also make it clear that the waiver can only be granted to permit a reduction in the amount of lighting provided so that you're not winding up permitting kind of weird variations on your standard. Like one really bright part of a parking lot and the rest of the parking lot is dim. That's a uniformity standard is meant to provide even lighting across a parking lot for safety, right? So we're really looking at specific reasons for granting a waiver and criteria. Residential lighting, I wanted to make a note here that we have some regulations on residential accent lighting that were adopted when the phenomenon was relatively new. Any other regulation of residential lighting is best handled in a general ordinance because nonconformity protections make administration of residential lighting really difficult via zoning. There's kind of always this like, well, was that light there before or after? How do you show that it was not there? There are some difficulties with zoning as far as that's concerned, because what you're really trying to do is mitigate nuisance, and a general ordinance is a better vehicle for mitigating that kind of nuisance. So also another thing, International Dark Sky Association does rate fixtures. They would call a fixture dark sky compliant. It would mean that it doesn't contribute as much light pollution as comparable fixtures. So Washington Township actually has a standard in its ordinance that says all proposed lighting in any district shall be an approved fixture by the International Dark Sky Association as a dark sky friendly light. Uplighting, another item. So current standards for uplighting do permit it, but they require it to be directed at the item intended to be illuminated. The memo says illuminated, not illuminated. But is there interest in more thoroughly prohibiting uplighting of signs, buildings, and landscaping? And then finally, automatic dimming or shut-off. This is actually probably one of my biggest recommendations. The vast majority of modern fixtures can be programmed to automatically dim or shut off outside of business hours. It can be set to turn back on or up when motion is detected. Many ordinances now require automatic dimming or shut off in the vast majority of cases. So often when security is the purpose of lighting, lights that respond to activity rather than remaining on all the time can be more effective at deterring illicit activity. So are we interested in developing text that requires some auto dimming or shut off? So those are the items that I called out. And of course, if anybody has additional items, we can certainly discuss those, but these are the ones I put in my memo. If we want to give Rick a chance to show his video, this would be a good time for that, and then we can come back to discussion.
Okay.
I have a video, then just a brief 1 1/3 pager to share. So, let me know when we're ready, Dana.
I think you're ready.
Oh, I guess it's gonna let us know, huh? That's me, okay. Any way we can crank it up? My volume's all the way up.
It's coming through back there. What microphone do you have?
I just, yeah, it's not gonna work, come through my computer microphone.
It sounds like it's coming out of there.
In the house.
As good as I can get, I'm sorry.
That's good.
Okay, I'll start over here.
What we can do to harm us and our environment. Let's talk about what we can do in our homes to minimize or even prevent contributing to light pollution. First, determine if the light is even necessary. All light have a clear purpose. Consider how the use of lighting will impact the area, including wildlife and the environment around your home. Consider using reflective paints or self-luminous markers for signs, curves, and steps to reduce the need for permanently installed outdoor lighting. Second, is the light directed at what is meant to be illuminated? Light should be directed only to where needed. Use shielding and careful aiming to target the direction of the light beam so that it points downward. It does not scale beyond to where it is needed. Next, how bright is the light? Light should be no brighter than necessary. Use the lowest light level required and be mindful of surface conditions, as some surfaces may reflect more light into the night sky than intended. As we learned in the first principle, light should be used only when it is useful. Is the light controlled? Use controls, such as timers or motion detectors, to ensure that light is available when it is needed, dimmed when possible.
Okay, so, let me get back to my desktop, I got one more document. Hopefully this will be viewable. Okay. Basically, there is a fallacy that high glare outdoor lights promote security. It's a flawed assumption that more brightness equals more safety. In reality, excessive and unshielded lighting can decrease visibility, creating hiding spots and provide a false sense of security for property owners. Research shows that poorly designed bright lighting can actually benefit criminals. Excuse me reading this, but I'm reading it in the record. So, how glare compromises security, decreases human visibility. Bright unshielded lights shine directly into the eyes of passers-by and residents, constricting their pupils. This makes it harder to see what's happening in the surrounding area, especially in the dark spots created by the harsh contrast. It creates deep shadows for criminals. The high contrast environment produced by intense, unshielded lights creates deep shadows where intruders can easily hide and observe the property. A criminal can hide in the shadows where a homeowner's glare-impaired eyes can't see them. It helps criminals see their targets. A brightly lit area allows criminals to operate without a flashlight, which might otherwise draw attention. They can easily identify valuables inside a home or a car, increasing the likelihood of a break-in. Fails to deter experienced criminals. The presence of bright lights may be an attractive indicator to experienced criminals, suggesting there is something valuable to protect. Studies have shown that many professional burglars are not deterred by simple lighting and may even consider a lit, unoccupied home an easy target. Provides a false sense of safety. Overly bright lighting can give residents a false sense of security, leading them to be less cautious. True security depends on wise lighting that focuses on enhancing visibility rather than just creating brightness. Okay, and then flipping the narrative a bit, effective lighting for genuine security. Properly designed outdoor lighting can genuinely improve safety by enhancing visibility without disabling glare. According to Security by Dark Sky experts, effective lighting design should be targeted. Use fixtures that direct light downward onto pathways and entryways, illuminating the ground rather than the air. Use fully shielded fixtures to prevent light from spilling horizontally or upward. Strategic, eliminate dark corners and highlight entry points, but avoid overlighting. Light should be placed to reveal potential threats rather than to announce nothing to see here. Motion activated, sudden activation of nights, startle intruders and draw attention to their presence. They're only on when needed, and also used with other security measures, alarms, things like that. So I did take about an hour, 15-minute drive through the township last night, and my observation takeaways are that most of our developments are private roads, and so many of those roads don't have street lighting. So we're pretty dimly lit in those instances. And for our new industrial corridor, we see lighting plans come through here for site plan approval. And Dana, I don't think we've got a permitting process that requires our building inspector to go out after hours and actually measure what's submitted on the site plan to verify that it meets what was submitted. And, within the industrial district, if I take a drive down Bruce Tech Park on the north side of 33 Mile Road, it's the most beautifully lit street in the township. It's lit correctly. Some would say it's dim lit, but I say that it's not lit any more than is necessary. You go across the street to Corte Drive, can't say it for sure, but I bet that the lighting there does not meet with the
lighting that was submitted on a lighting plan, especially the 4-to-1 uniformity ratio, which means that between two lights, that the midpoint is supposed to be 25% of the lighting at the lighting source. So other observations would be that individual sites, whether they be, I'll call them spot sites, whether they be in commercial, industrial, or residential, it's just people have lights that are blindingly bright and unnecessarily bright. It's just nothing but glare. I mean, you look at them, or sometimes you don't even have an opportunity to look away because they're so close to the roadside. There's one newer development on 34 Mile Road heading eastward, and there's two huge lights that just shines right into oncoming traffic, completely unacceptable. And with what Joe's proposing here with a separate ordinance, it would allow our enforcement officer to go out and remediate those situations. Also, Kelvin 2700 value is indicative of soft white lighting that we typically have in our homes. Kelvin 4000 to 5000 values, those are more for interior task lighting that you would see in a warehouse. My kitchen, I have daylight, probably the equivalent of 4,000 lights just over my counters. But elsewhere in the house, it's all soft white and it's fine. And plus my exterior lighting is all soft light and it's 40-watt bulbs and it's fine. So anyway, giving you a lot. Any questions?
I have a question for Joe.
Sure.
If it's allowed. Joe, am I correct that in our current ordinance, we don't address the color temperature at all?
That's correct.
Okay, so does anything that we do have translate to that?
No, no. Color temperature is an independent variable from luminance or illumination. Yeah.
Okay.
The video, International Dark Sky, they're promoting no higher Kelvin than 2200. How I got involved with this over 20 years ago is after I built my house, there was a development that was put in on the other side of Fisher Road from me, and it was just, I mean, it was ridiculous. I couldn't sleep in my bedroom, how bright it was. And so we didn't have a lighting ordinance. I talked with a clerk at the time. She got behind it. She worked with a developer, and they relit that development twice. And it's Timber Ridge development on the east side of Fisher Road, just about probably 1,000 feet north from 32 Mile Road. I would submit it's one of the most tastefully residential streetlight examples within the township. In the Kelvin value in that, I think that's at the most 2200, and it's perfect. There's adequate lighting there. Been no security issues, no complaints, and it's nearby resident friendly.
Got really loud. I think we might need to turn some levels down because we're going to probably get feedback pretty quick.
I saw how you Googled your thing that you read. I think that's just, I just would be careful with that because I Googled, tell me why a well-lit property is good for security, and I got the opposite of what you said.
Yeah.
So take all that with a grain of salt. If you ask Google to validate something for you, I'm sure it will.
Yeah, I did that out of convenience, Jared, because at one time, I think it's still in Dark Sky,
Yeah.
but there was very similar language regarding the fallacy of overly bright lighting providing security. So that's where I started.
Okay.
And it was just a quick way to pull it up.
I guess my question is, so the things that you mentioned, and thanks for all the work you've done on this. Item A in our current ordinance already says that all outdoor lighting should be shielded downward or below horizontal to reduce glare and shall be so arranged as designed to reflect the light away from all adjacent residential districts and adjacent residences and public right-of-ways. No light shall cast a glare on adjacent roadways. Is there a problem with the ordinance, or is there a problem with not enforcing the
I think
ordinance?
it's a combination of both, but it starts with the ordinance language. In the video, it showed like a good, better, best presentation for pole lighting as an example. And if you look at, you go out to, I think it's Orchard Grove, our combined assisted living.
Yeah.
Very, very nice facility out there. But all of that lighting is probably around Kelvin 3000 value, with the exception of the very bright light over the dumpster, which also is tilted up and shines all the way over to the roundabout. I'm almost done here, Jared. So, but the deal is, those fixtures, they meet the regulatory requirements, but the bulbs are visible, so they create a lot of glare in themselves. I mean, really, if you go to, I go to California, where my brother lives, and all the fixtures are full cutoff fixtures. You cannot see the lighting source. It's all down lighting. And, we don't have any of that.
So to your point, item D says the lighting sources, bulbs or lenses for non-residential property shall not be visible from adjoining properties or right-of-ways. So again, is this an issue more of enforcing the existing ordinance?
Yep, that falls under enforcement, and I've
Yeah.
talked to Mike about it, but the deal is, it's a fine line. Do we want to take and have our township supervisors' duties?
Right, that's a whole separate
Yeah.
issue of like, do we need a code enforcement officer,
Yeah.
but.
But, that's why I mentioned the permitting process is.
Yeah.
And it's all complaint-based. I mean, the supervisors should remain silent unless there's a gross violation. But if there's a complaint that with a permitting process, it substantiates what was allowed, what was verified by the inspector, and then if there's a deviation, I mean, it's easy to verify with a light intensity meter, seeing if the light sources are visible.
Yeah.
And it's a quick deal to remedy, so.
Okay.
I'm not looking to take and create make work here, but there are situations in the township that really should be remedied. If nothing else, what should come first is the safety stuff that's close to the roadway. It's nothing but glare to oncoming traffic, and I saw at least 3 blatant ones last night.
I support adding to our current language, making it more specific, especially with some of the developments that have been approved. And, everybody wants to keep Bruce rural, right? And to do that, I think limiting the glare and some of the lighting would be working towards that.
I have a contact in Washington Township who's now on the board, and I did a lot of complaining down there. I own a property, so I feel it gives me the right to come in and voice my concerns. So he assured me, he said, Rick, he says, that for any new development with this administration, that the lighting will be no greater than Kelvin 2700. And he says, and all fixtures will be international dark sky approval required. And then they have a big problem in Washington, a legacy problem from what was allowed, and that's phase 2, and that they're going to be working on, but haven't started it. But if you go down by the old Kmart shopping center, take a view of that shopping center and also the satellite facilities within the shopping center. Culver's meets the new lighting ordinance. Arby's is probably the worst example of lighting along Van Dyke in Washington Township. Kelvin 5000 fixtures, 45-degree angle, and some of them shine right into oncoming traffic. So that's my interest, trying to avoid that stuff. I'm probably the oldest guy here, and this will have an effect on my life, but it's going to have more of an effect on others here. So just want to try and leave it better than I found it.
Okay, I would like to open up to other commissioners to get their opinions. And don't feel like you need to respond to all of them.
No, I won't. You've heard my spiel. I'll remain silent.
Joe? Has Washington adopted this dark sky stuff in
Of course.
full?
Oh, I don't know how to see it in full, but yes, they have elements of it in their ordinance, yeah.
Okay. And where do they stand on the color temperature?
I have to look at the actual ordinance to see what their color temperature regulation says.
Their ordinance was 129, it's now 133, which is a standalone ordinance, and is rescinded 129.
Okay, they took it out of the,
I wasn't gonna talk out loud.
No, I figured you knew the answer.
I'm not sure if we're asking for kind of opinions at this point. I'm not sure exactly what the right outcome is, but I also am interested in what we can do to improve the situation, especially going forward. I mean, at least the results from the survey that we got, and I had a chance to go through a lot of the verbatims. I mean, keeping the township rural was, very, very resounding, but that there were a lot of things that related to what rural means. And one of the big ones was lighting. Right?
So I did some review on this as well. My personal preference and feeling is I am not a fan of the low Kelvin bulbs. I think that people that build buildings in this township should be able to light them according to our lighting ordinance, where they're not violating the things that we have in our ordinance, but they should be able to choose the color of light they would like to have. I did look at the International Dark Skies website. The only fixtures that our Dark Skies website approves are 3,000 Kelvin or less. So I would not be in support of that, or also referring people to a website that may change tomorrow. And then if if we don't feel like that complies with our ordinance, we've tied it to this outside organization, and I don't believe that's a good way to go.
Other thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the yellow or orange lights as well. I think they, in some settings they're good, but they could change the whole color of the area or your building. People pick specific colors, and if they light them up with an orange light, it changes the coloring of the building, the appearance of the buildings. And also, I think the lights in front of my house are 3,000 or 4,000, and they're not overly bright.
With regard to waivers, I guess I don't see why we wouldn't be able to create waivers. I mean, does the ordinance have to say that we can have waivers?
generally speaking, yeah. If your ordinance doesn't empower you as a planning commission to give a waiver, you're basically looking at a variance at that point.
Okay. So,
there's a degree to which you don't want to go too far with waiver conditions, but sometimes it can be sensible. That example that we had earlier where
sure,
putting an extra light there was kind of counter to what we're trying to accomplish,
Right.
but it was the only way to get, the right ratio. Or to use another section of the ordinance, I work in pretty wide variety of communities, and one of them is Clawson, which is tiny little lots and lots of stuff on them, and they have a wall requirement when you got residential behind. But they had 8 commercial properties that all had wooden fences, and a new one was being redeveloped. And the question was, well, okay, we got this one tooth out of a row of teeth, and one of them is being knocked out because it's being redeveloped. Are we going to put a wall there, or are we going to match the fences? And they had the ability to waive the wall to a lesser requirement if it made sense for the context. So they were able to do that right at the planning commission level, as part of the site plan approval, rather than having it go through a variance process. So, like I said, in targeted circumstances, when they're written well, waivers can be quite valuable to smoothing out a process.
Would we have to specify what areas that we can waive, or would it just be kind of a blanket that the planning commission can waive standards or
You can make it
requirements?
specific to standards, or you can make it broader to a section.
Okay,
So you could say, the planning commission could waive any standards of this section if it finds, and then you have a list of things that you have to find. Or you could say the planning commission may waive, whatever is in that paragraph.
okay.
And maybe there's some things that they have to find in order to
Okay.
do that.
And we had talked already about the uniformity ratio. That is probably something that would be beneficial if we could adjust or waive that,
Yes.
because it would have helped us in that one circumstance.
Right, yeah.
Not put up as much light as, we could work with less light. That's what we're hoping to do, right?
Right, exactly, yeah. So, like I said, some limited waiver, very some targeted waiver language, and some clear findings that you have to make in order to grant a waiver.
I think there's a misunderstanding about Kelvin values, and, what's I'm proposing is orange or yellow lighting. Again, 2700 is soft lighting, and yet it's softer than this. Too bad we don't have, it's probably, well, I don't know about the hallway, but look at Culver's. It's not orange lighting, it's sensible soft lighting that does not annoy the eyes. And
How do you know what it is?
If we were at 2,700 in here, I might be kind of falling asleep.
yeah, well, it's available all over the web, that basically soft white bulbs are 2,700. But again, that is where Washington Township has migrated to with all their new construction, recognizing that they had a problem. Without limits, we're going to be the new problem area. This is probably Kelvin, what would you say, Joe, probably 4,000? That's,
This is 4 or 5, some 4,500 maybe, something like that.
that's acceptable for lighting up residential property and for oncoming glare?
I guess the challenge I have is, I think some of the issues that you've identified, which I don't discount are issues, I think are covered in our current ordinance, but perhaps not enforced. Now, not everything that you've advocated for, so I just think, if there are glare problems, and that's part of what we're trying to address, if we're not enforcing the current ordinance, we could change it to whatever we want, but if we're not enforcing it in the new ordinance, then I don't know that we've accomplished anything.
Well,
Hold on.
okay.
I think the same is true with the bulb issue. And I guess where I struggle with is, I think to some extent, there's a matter of preference outside of just obvious issues like glare and lights pointing where they shouldn't be, things like that. And we've certainly heard from residents in the past, they want to be able to do things on their property without the government telling them, you can't do this or you can't do that. I would point back to the chicken conversation from a year ago as an example of, I moved out here for this rural area, I want to be able to do things on my property, and I worry that, is this an overreach of you have to have this kind of fixture and this kind of light, and And I don't even know that we're enforcing the current ordinance, and so therefore I don't know how changing it's gonna make a difference.
Well, regarding monument signs, we allow uplighting, and that's a big problem because it's low lighting, and for entrance ways, those floodlights provide a lot of glare for oncoming traffic.
Yeah.
And Jared, what we do here is we create ordinances which are laws/rules for, one set of standards for our community. And without them, my takeaway is, well, what is this, the wide open west? People should be able to come to Bruce Township and do whatever they want because this is what they like. Sometimes what they like is not considerate of their neighbors or oncoming traffic. And, my reason is we're not going far enough on multiple fronts. I'm not looking to be a hard guy. I'm just trying to take it and do something that's sensible.
Yeah, and I'm tracking with your comments there. I don't think it should be the Wild Wild West. I think it's trying to strike the right balance. And like I said, I think some of those things could already be addressed with the ordinance we have. So I'm certainly not opposed to asking Joe, and if this the collective interest is to look at sprucing up the lighting ordinances, I'm supportive of that. But I don't know to what extent, I guess, is from my personal
I don't know if
standpoint.
that's a good enough reason to not explore updating our language, the fact that it's not currently enforced well, because what we do gives them legs to stand on for enforcement.
Well, what I'm saying is I think some of the problems that have been used as reasons to rewrite the ordinance are covered in the ordinance.
Right.
So-
And I think temperature matters. You don't really need a 6,000 Kelvin light at night on your property. I think that lighting affects a lot more property than chickens.
When a Kelvin 5,000 bulb along 33 Mile Road at a facility facing eastward lights all the way up over to Powell, is that really necessary? What are you trying to light?
Is that something our current ordinance could fix, though?
Well, I think
It
our
could-
ordinance does say at the property line, you can only have so much light.
So what you just said could actually be fixed, like what Jared said, with our existing rules. So I think if we I'm all for these streets that are being overlighted, things like that, for sure. I think if we enforce the rules, that'd be step one, and then from there, see where we stand.
Well, I've got some specifics that I'd like to read to you that I've also sent to Joe previously. My concerns are that we don't require full cutoff fixtures, and we should. And some sort of negotiation on the Kelvin value. Again, Washington Township is now migrated 2,700. I would be willing to take and accept 300, but 3,000. But any greater than that, is just not necessary. Okay, also, ordinance needs to be applicable to all zoning districts. It is not. Okay, maximum lumens. Joe, you were going to take and look into that further.
Yeah, it varies a lot across, communities and ordinances. And
Is its intensity and Kelvin value combined?
yes, they do work together. So the
Okay.
amount of light and the color of the light do kind of team up to create intensity.
Uniform ratio. Okay, uplighting, especially for monuments, it's not necessary. There's tasteful lights that can be put on any monument that shine down and create no glare.
Are you talking about residential also?
Yeah.
I like my uplights on my house.
Okay.
You're telling me I have
Well-
to take my uplights down?
Well, they do have some tasteful uplighting wall sconces. Using Culver's, again, as an example, they have combination uplight and downlights. Okay?
Mine are on the ground,
But-
shining at my
but-
house.
But the deal is, the source of lighting is non-visible for any of them, and it's very tastefully done. So in California, would they allow that? No. I don't have an objection with it personally.
I
but I'm talking
I don't care what they do in
I'm talking-
California.
I'm talking about old
The
school
gas cans back.
floodlights, two of them shining on a monument at an angle that no way that you can get past without getting your eyeballs fried. That is just inappropriate and unnecessary. We're a developing township. We have an opportunity to really get this right.
But my point is just that I think you're talking about, like I said, I think mine are tasteful, you don't. So, somewhere we're gonna have to like make some, is it 5,000, is it 3,000? Is it just in commercial or, are we gonna go down every street and?
Question for you, does your lighting shine on neighboring property? Is the glare?
No.
Okay,
No.
so you should be good then.
But it's uplighting.
Okay. But the big thing is the glare. And it's just unnecessary. I mean, it's like, yeah, I want to be in a room with a bunch of flash
I just
bulbs
feel
going
Chicken Gate is like,
Yeah.
I'm
You're gonna find a lot more
I'm
people with
feeling,
uplights than chicken owners.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna be.
You're not saying that you're against
real mess.
uplighting, though,
Trying
are
to-
you?
Yeah, he is
Yes.
saying he's against
Entirely?
uplight.
yes,
Yeah.
that's,
I light my flag with uplight, five
Or do you just-
5,000
mandatory.
Kelvin. It's mandatory.
Right.
It's actually part
But
of.
if you put,
Yeah.
it's very easy for, in that case, to take and put a ground shield, whether it be with patio blocks or metal or whatever, to take and shield the light source. So you get your uplighting without glare outward to anyone else.
So you're not fully against uplighting?
No. So I'll clarify, is I am against uplighting that produces outward glare,
Okay.
okay?
Well, again, our existing ordinance, I argue the other way, should do it. My question is if we were to adopt some of these things, including the Kelvin, whatever we wound up with on that for the color temperature, aren't we gonna just face the same problem with it not being able to, not having the resources to enforce it?
That's a separate issue, and I've had discussions with Mike about it already, but we're not to that point to.
Right, so I think I like darker skies myself, I'm supporting
too.
that. But I think we have to be careful how we do it, because we can come up with a fix, but it's gonna be useless if we don't have a method to enforce it. I mean, and if we had a method to enforce it, how effective would our existing ordinance?
Well, the reality is, a lot of this stuff is complaint-based, and if there's no complaint, generally the supervisor does not go out looking for trouble unless it's blatant. Because, he's got finite time available. So, and I don't want to take and make this into a work project for any enforcement officer, but whatever we do, it should be comprehensive, mutually agreed to, and allow him to quickly remedy stuff that's, there's just enough, I just shouldn't say enough, are some gross violations. And, I've seen where they tilt the fixtures down or turn them off, and then months later you drive by and, the same situation is back. So, there just needs to be some teeth in it. And by having a separate ordinance, as Joe mentioned, rather than it being embedded in the zoning ordinance, it provides some additional flexibility for whoever the enforcement officer is.
Okay, so how do we want to proceed with this? I think if the next steps would be to have Joe come up with some proposed amendments. Is that where we want to take this? Is there
Well, I think, are we all in favor that a waiver would be a good addition to our current language?
Sure. The ability to do waivers?
Yeah. So we can start there.
Regarding the Kelvin, Joe, do you have resources that would serve for benchmarking? I've already mentioned Washington, but, any others?
Yeah, I could look at some things and maybe see what I could come up with.
Kelvins
as
and
far as
lumens
examples.
combined. So a lower lumen with a higher Kelvin could produce something maybe that is a more acceptable compromise.
Yeah, I can kind of look around and see what example sites I could find, maybe some photography that kind of shows what it all looks like in the wild.
Okay. And I think the last one was, well, there was uplighting. Sounds like there's some mixed feedback on whether we want to pursue that or not. Or the other one was automatic dimming or shut-offs. Joe, you've alluded here that that is more common now.
Yeah, I mean, it's partly because 20 years ago, all the fixtures couldn't do it. You know, you had to literally do it yourself. But now, I mean, any LED fixture you buy, you can program it to go dark. You can put a motion sensor on it for nominally more money. It's very, very easy to do these kinds of things now.
Does our current ordinance allow, that wouldn't even allow that really, would it? We wouldn't allow them to be off.
Outside of business hours, we probably would. It's just more of a, if you really want to get rid of that kind of sky glow effect, have all your lights dim or turn off when there's nobody around, and then if someone walks onto the property, well, the lights come back up, and if I'm a sheriff's deputy driving around and I see a property that's all lit up, I know something's happening there, because that's why the lights are on, you know, so maybe I take a little cruise by and see what's going on.
We'd have to get rid of 527B because it says that they can't go off and on. There should be no flashing, oscillating, moving, or intermittent types of lighting or illumination.
You have to balance that
Yeah.
with B, yeah, because you don't want a flash or a strobe effect.
No.
You definitely don't want that, so most of them are designed so that if they do come on, they're coming on and they'll dim off as opposed to just shutting off. But yeah, we do have to balance, you're correct, we have to balance with that.
You mentioned sky glow, Joe, and that's kind of like the main priority, dark sky, literally preserving the dark sky.
Yeah.
And, you know, throughout the United States, they're actually around the world, but the only place that's got dark sky right now is North Korea. So, because we light it up. I mean, the lights go up and they reflect off the atmosphere, and, you know, it's still pretty dark where I'm at, but I look down towards Washington Township at nighttime. I mean, you can see kind of like, you know, the dome.
Yeah. We'll try not to replicate the reasons that North Korea's got dark skies.
At least they got dark sky, Joe.
Okay, so does that seem like good next steps? Let's have Joe come back with some updated language for a proposed lighting ordinance, and then we can debate it further.
Sure.
Perfect,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you, Joe, thank you, Rick. Yeah, good with a 5-minute break.
Works for me.
All right, we're gonna make a motion to pause the meeting at 8:04 PM for a 5-minute break.
Second.
Second by Kent, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, all right, we're on 5-minute break. Back in session at 8:14 PM. So we just wrapped up 10C, which is the lighting memo. So we're going to go back to 10B, which is the newbie rezoning request, 35 gates. Make a motion to untable the rezoning request, 275 gates. Is there a second?
Second.
By Jay Vincent, second by T. Vincent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right. Ms. Grenfell, have you had a chance to confer with your clients? Any other updates there?
We do,
Okay.
yes, we have some updates and some revisions to the stated conditions in our submitted proposal. Kind of starting with those bullet points on the first page, we wanted to add to the first bullet point, specifically that hours will not take place between 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. These are, predicted normal business hours, and then also taking into account those temporary deviation of hours during the holiday seasons. Which brings me to the third bullet point, a revision there. The only deviation from the stated business hours will apply to timeframes around the holiday seasons of Christmas, Easter, and Valentine's Day due to temporary increases in customer orders and sales. Moving along to the next bullet point. A revision to that, applicants will only have 2 to 5 employees daily at their shop. Moving along to the delivery vehicles, some revisions for there. We have deliveries to and shipments from the property will be limited to standard service vehicles such as vans, box trucks, or similarly sized vehicles. Semi-trailer trucks will not be used for any business activity. We wanted to also add in a condition with respect to planned reconstruction. At least according to my little note, my chicken scratch, there will be no demolition and reconstruction to any exterior part of the current building without approval from the Planning Commission. There will only be, kind of as I stated earlier, that cosmetic, work done to the exterior. Let's see, moving along. We wanted to also add in a proposed condition that there will be 0 indoor seating in the retail ice cream area as provided on the submitted site plan. And then also looking to the second page under permitted use rezoning, looking to subsection A1 or I, manufacturing of product. That is actually subsection 2. Retail sale of chocolates, ice cream, and related specialty food items to the aforementioned business. This will also align with the current operation of Juliet Chocolate Factory. And I just want to refer back to that first subsection A, that any of these included provisions will be limited exclusively to the operations of a chocolate and ice cream business shop. And then all of these conditions that I've stated, just to kind of reemphasize that they will also apply to the provisions set forth under sale or transfer of the property. So they will run with the land. These will be applicable to any subsequent purchaser or successor, transferee as well. And just so I haven't missed anything in all of my notes. Let's see. If there's any clarification or follow-up as well, please let me know.
The clarifications on A2 related to the specialty food items, if I heard you correctly, you said related to the aforementioned business, that, like, that,
Yes, so these, I mean,
so basically,
kind
are
of
you
have a-
saying, like, other items that are related back to chocolate or ice cream type of
exclusively,
products?
yeah, the chocolate and ice cream business, and their, what kind of their current operations at Juliet Chocolate Factory.
So they could sell candy other than chocolate?
Yeah.
Is it, right?
Yes.
They're doing that now?
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna read back what I wrote down, if I captured it all.
Yep.
Hours would not take place between 9 PM and 9 AM. Item bullet 3, deviation, which maybe is covered if you're changing the hours around, but essentially you're just limiting any extended hours to Christmas, Easter, and Valentine's Day holidays. Clarifying in item 4 that will have 2 to 5 employees.
Yep.
Delivery vehicles limited to vans, box trucks, and similar sized vehicles. I don't know if I got the wording all that right, but essentially I think the big change is semi-truck will not use for daily operations.
Correct.
No, there'd be no demo or reconstruction of the exterior. I don't know if I caught the last.
I said, without approval from the planning commission, and it just kind of restated earlier about like the that will be the only.
Last. Zero indoor seating at the price.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's covered in.
Also, the clarification on what special food.
Oh, yeah.
Just chime in here to say that obviously I don't proper code. But if this is recommended to the board, putting all this in writing prior to the board meeting is definitely for everyone. We're not dealing with notes plus.
I didn't hear anything with regard to the residential aspect of property.
Didn't Joe, I believe, already addressed kind of the roadblocks that they would encounter with.
Yeah, it's just that it's not permitted.
Yeah.
Okay, So is this, some of these conditions on the sale or transfer of the property, is that something that should be actually recorded into the deed?
This is agreement
Okay.
When we, as it gets through. Deny, or we, after that, again, typically would have the applicant, I'm assuming yourself, and either somebody from the board, more likely our attorney, to put this all into a legal agreement. And there is where it really gets locked down, and then that's recorded.
Okay.
Which brings me to another question, Joe. If the board were to approve this, does the legal agreement have to all be in place and filed, recorded with the county before they can open? Or is that something the board would need to make a decision on?
I think that's I would probably want to defer an answer to the attorney on that. I didn't think to ask when I talked to her. But my suspicion is, yes, they want to have this recorded. But I think that final answer will rest with the attorney.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for coming back with just some additional clarity. I think that's certainly helpful. Any other questions for Ms. Grenfell? So with hearing none, I guess I would bring it back to the commissioners. As you know, we've had a vote for that was voted down, and we had a vote against to deny that was also voted down. So where do we want to go from here?
Do we need to make a new motion, Joe?
Yes, you've got two motions that were voted on, so a new one would be necessary.
Could the first motion be made by reference, or
Just in order to, for the sake of brevity, you're saying?
yeah?
I would be careful about that because they've modified the conditions of approval. So I think that you probably want to make a new one and note that you are, let's say the motion is to approve or to recommend approval. You want to be clear that you are recommending approval on the basis of the conditions as modified at the meeting. So I think you probably should just start from scratch. Whoa. It's my computer telling me it's not happy with how long I've had it open without plugging it in.
Well, I will take a stab at a motion, and we'll see how this goes. Excuse me.
I think as far as rationale is concerned, you probably, because Dana's been taking notes, you could probably call back to your rationale, whichever way you're making a motion here.
Okay.
That might shorten things up a little. You can always add to that rationale too.
Yeah, because I guess the rationale has not changed. It would just be the conditions, right? Most likely. All right, I'm going to make a recommendation to the board to approve the rezoning request at 275 East Gate Street from its current zoning of R1B to a conditional zoning of C1 based on the following conditions. As documented under permitted use, item A, the use of the property shall be limited exclusively to the operations of a chocolate and ice cream shop business, including A, the manufacturing of products associated with the applicant's current operations of Juliet Chocolate Factory. 2, retail sales of chocolate, ice cream, and related specialty food items that are related to the aforementioned business of chocolate and ice cream sales. 3, podcast production. 4, workshops and educational classes, particularly for children, at the preparation of chocolate. 5, shipment and deliveries of products, equipment, and utilities associated with or related to the operating of the aforementioned business. And 6, the storage of product, equipment, and utilities associated with and related to operating the aforementioned business. Along with that, uses permitted under R1B, including special land uses, shall remain applicable to the property. Furthermore, the conditions set in this proposal accepted by the planning commission shall run with the land and shall be binding upon the applicants, all future owners, successors, and assigns of the property. Any future sale, lease, or transfer of the property shall remain subject to the conditions approved by the planning commission, and that no purchaser or transferee shall be permitted to alter or expand the use of the property beyond the scope expressly authorized by the planning commission without prior approval from Bruce Township. In addition, conditions offered by the applicant include hours of operation not to take place between 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. Extended hours for holiday seasons will be limited to timeframes around Christmas, Easter, and Valentine's Day. Conditional upon the business operating 2 to 5 employees total. Conditional upon delivery vehicles being, get this right here, limited to standard service vehicles such as vans, box trucks, and similar sized vehicles, and that the use of semi-truck trailers for normal business operations will not be utilized or allowable. Next condition is that no demo or reconstruction of the exterior be allowed without prior approval from the planning commission, and that all exterior construction would be cosmetic in nature only, and that there will be no indoor seating to the ice cream retail area. I would reference back to the previous submitted motion justifications. Can't find them. I will restate them. But and Dana, if you have any questions on this, surrounded by other non-residential uses. Previously, property was utilized in a non-residential capacity as a daycare center. That there's no reconstruction allowed, and the building will be maintained in its current state. That there are limited R1B options on this parcel given its surrounding properties, and that continued R1B uses allow for future revisions back to other uses in surrounding properties.
I have a few notes.
Okay.
Well, you had said applicants will only, they'll only have 2 to 5 employees total, but they said daily, so.
Oh, okay. I would
Like that.
amend the wording to say 2 to 5 employees daily. Sorry.
And I think as a blanket coverage, we should mention that the conditions that were updated verbally today, so that way if anything was
Okay.
said wrong, it will cover us.
Was that a second to the motion, or was it just
It was
a?
Just a note
For
right now.
clarification.
Yeah, so that the conditions verbally presented today. And I don't remember, I think we skipped one bullet point on the condition for the second one, unless you did say that, about the production, manufacturing, and internal business affairs.
You missed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be a condition that the production, manufacturing, and/or internal business affairs do not involve public access. That, hold on, let me read this to myself here. Applicants expect that the production. So this is this a condition or a subject or? I'll just say condition upon applicants' acknowledgement that production, manufacturing, and/or internal business affairs that do not involve public access may occur outside of stated business hours, provided they do not generate noise, odor, or glare detectable beyond the property. All right, so it's a few minutes to the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Jay Vinson, seconded by Commissioner Cant. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. Dana, would you call the roll, please?
Yep. Hagelstein,
No?
Blaylock,
Yes.
Jay Vinson,
Yes.
Cant,
Yes.
Boyce,
Yes.
Barnett,
Yes.
D. Vinson.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Okay, thank you for going back and forth on that. So what's going to happen now, this is going to go to the Township Board in 2 weeks, and they will make the final decision on the rezoning request.
Thank you all for your time and also going back and forth with us. Just to follow up on that point with submitting something in writing, should we just submit kind of what was all approved today directly to the Township Board?
You can go through Dana.
Yeah, through Dana.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you, God.
Will do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item 10D, Master Plan Survey Results.
Yeah, so we did a little bit of preliminary discussion of this last time. But this time you've had a chance to read a broader summary that kind of hits on every question that was on the survey. We've broken down kind of who took the survey, and we've also provided a file, just an Excel file that has every response that we got. All the open-ended responses are in there, so you can see the exact wording that everybody put on the survey when they answered an open-ended question. As far as the message that was present in the survey results, that remains consistent with what we talked about last time, that generally speaking, the people who took the survey value the rural character of the township. They do not want to see a huge influx of development. There is couched within that a reasonable expectation that some things will happen, but they want it to happen in a controlled and planned way. And in general, I would say that a sizable majority of respondents are not receptive to adding additional commercial and industrial land in the township. We got a little more granular on some of these things. We asked, for instance, if there is industrial development, what's your biggest concern? And noise and traffic led the way on that. Those are the two biggest concerns. So that's something that even if we don't designate more land as planned for industrial now, let's say we do it in 5 years, we still know that that's a concern that people have. So it's something that we'd want to address in whatever language we developed as part of the plan. People are concerned about this, so we should address it in zoning. And then you go back to your zoning ordinance, or perhaps even your general ordinances, and you make modifications accordingly.
And can you clarify like what that would look like? How would we address traffic?
Traffic is a tough one because it's just a variable of having development, It's not something you can really control. But things like noise and lighting and stuff, obviously we do have some control over that. Traffic, we're township, so we're kind of dependent on the road commission and of course MDOT for our main artery here. So yeah, we do have a lot less control over that. There were a few other things I wanted to point out. One thing is we did add a question about agricultural, like tourism uses, and I think that the message we got there was caution that it might be appropriate to do some permission of that, but in the right way and in the right areas. Yeah, exactly. Not really looking to do that well out into the township where you'd be dragging a lot of traffic down, particularly our gravel roads. That's broadly it. We kind of tried to get at how people felt about the township and why they live here in a lot of different ways. We asked people to rate their agreement with a bunch of different statements. And one of those statements was, I feel that, driving a little further to access services and employment is an acceptable trade-off for living where I do. And most people said that yes, it was, like almost everyone. So that tells us that while we did have some respondents who said they would like to have a few more services closer by, the vast majority said, I'm happy with leaving my home and going somewhere else to access services. So there's not a huge cry for more of that to come into the township necessarily. I think I said it last time, I don't think there's much ambiguity in the broad results. Obviously, as you drill down and you look at individual responses and things, there certainly is some difference of opinion and some nuance there. But when we kind of back up and take a 30,000-foot view, I think we pretty clearly heard what the township as a whole thinks. And we had a fairly decent sample of the township. We got almost 400 responses, which, in our information-soaked world is really not that bad, especially for a township this size, especially when you consider that, yes, we do have a number that represents the number of people who lives here, but a lot of those people are children, so they're probably not going to be taking this survey. So that number is actually smaller than the top line number that you see. So I do think that we got a nicely representative sample of the township, and we got a lot of responses by the standards of these things today. We've definitely, I've worked on master plans and all kinds of other projects in a huge variety of communities, with populations much smaller than Bruce's and populations much bigger, and I've received far fewer responses in much larger communities. So I think the opportunity was there, the opportunity was well promoted, and that showed in the number of responses that we got. I don't know if anybody's got any specific questions about the results at this point, but if you do, obviously, we'll talk through them, and then beyond that, we can talk about kind of where we're going next.
I have a question, Joe, and I don't know if it's possible to translate what we received into the answer. But we have, right now, a very, defined commercial presence on Van Dyke and over there. But along those corridors at present, we have a lot of currently zoned that's vacant.
Sure, yeah.
What direction, if any, does this give us in terms of how we should consider those properties?
I think there's a less definitive answer there, because you do, like I said, you do have some that's not currently being used or is maybe underutilized. And that provides you some room for growth. It provides you a little bit of a reservoir that you can draw from if you have other uses that move in here over time. And it might not happen now, it might happen 10 years from now. But having something available is, I think, probably important. So I don't know that going back and saying, well, people aren't really looking for more commercial, let's just eliminate all of our, vacant commercial land is the right call. I think that you want to have some land available to receive.
And then we have also, I think, 2 properties where I don't think we have any choice because they're a result of a court decision.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And then how do we look at, and when do we look at things that are special land use commercial at present and have been for a long time?
Sure.
And what we decide to do with those?
Yes. In particular, probably the most prominent site that we're going to have to look at is that medical site up M53, because it is what it is, or what it was, I suppose. So we're going to have to figure out what to do with that property.
Right.
And what's practical. I mean, it is already developed as commercial, and we know that there's a cost to taking something that's commercial and turning it into something else.
But it's a very distinct subset of commercial.
Exactly, it is. And there are some state licensing constraints on, who can operate that same use there in the future. So that is going to be a big question mark property. We have one where the owner has specifically asked us to consider his property too, so we're definitely going to have to consider that property as well. And, when we think about the Van Dyke corridor, there is land that is on the current future land use map that's planned for office and commercial that isn't zoned commercial right now.
Right.
So what do we do with that land?
Yeah.
Do we take some of that out of the equation, or do we figure out something else to do with it? We're going to have to make decisions on that.
When you approach something like this in other communities, do we actually kind of go parcel by parcel and, put like things together as we, delve into it?
I kind of think that's our next step, yeah. We've got this feedback now in mind, and we're gonna have to we're gonna have to go back to our maps, and we're gonna have to say, what are we actually doing with these particular places in the township? And I know, for instance, I know that there's some properties that have houses on them right over there that had office designations on them. Is that appropriate still?
We couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, right. It's like they seem to have office zoning and seem to have had that on the zoning map for a while, but that's not what they're assessed as, and so how did that happen? So yeah, there's going to be some individual decisions to make, and I think that's really our next step is digging in and making those decisions.
Do you get a flavor of whether people actually looked at the future zoning map?
Yeah, I don't know how much how much time people spent with the maps that were included in the survey. I assume that, I mean, they were available, so I assume that some of them
Yeah.
certainly
Because we
looked
have
at it.
a couple sizable chunks that were intentionally platted as industrial.
Right.
Right along the expressway. And we're getting to the point that that's about all that's left. So, I suppose that'd be
Yeah.
a hard thing to consider, is that still the right balance?
Sure. I think, one of the things about your core industrial area down in the, east of here is that some of the parcels that are left that don't have industrial uses on them are like weird and long and kind of bowling alley or flag shaped, and like, how do you even use those properties? It might take someone aggregating them someday to kind of figure out what the potential is down there. So there's definitely some potential there. But yeah, we do have some calls to make on some of the other parcels that are a little further out from that area.
So, walk us through, how does that work, Joe? I mean, is that something like next meeting we would like start defining, like, if there are areas that we would like to recommend a change one way or the other, that we would start plotting those out?
Yeah, we're literally gonna have to go through the future land use map. And, I mean, thankfully, we've got huge parts of the township that we don't really have to look at because they're rural and we're not touching them. So, that's 2/3 of the township at a minimum. That's just outside the area we're even thinking about. So, probably more like 80% of the township. So we're able to focus, which I think is helpful. If this was a broader look at land across the township, it would be a much, much bigger job. But I think in a few meetings, provided we don't have like 1,000 things on our agenda, I think in a few meetings we can get through figuring out what we want our direction to be on all those pieces of land. And we just have to be systematic about it. Just point them all out and say, how do we feel about this? Here's what's here now. Here's how long this has been planned for office, and there's never been demand for it. Does it still need to be planned for office? That kind of thing.
Okay. So what are your recommendations to the PC members for preparation into next month's meeting?
I think take a look back at those maps that we had of the current zoning and the current planning for the uses, the commercial and industrial and office uses. That's going to be one of the biggest things. I would encourage you to spend some time with the public input results as well, and just kind of make sure that you're really familiar. Take a little spin. You don't have to read everything word for word, but take a little spin through the open-ended answers and just see if you can kind of absorb the tone that we're seeing there. And then, yeah, it's a matter of just pointing out what should be what and putting the final map together. So, like I said, I think we could probably get that done in a couple of sessions. And it's mostly just a matter of what the constraints on our time are based on what else is on our agenda.
What's on the agenda? Okay.
Could we do if need be, at some point, could we do a special meeting?
Hey, possibly, yeah, if we think
Our
it comes down
agendas.
to that.
Like tonight, I mean, we don't speed through things and our agendas can be pretty full.
Yeah, so if we have a real kind of empty agenda next time, maybe we only have 1 or 2 discussion items on it.
Don't jinx it.
Yeah, so far, it's quiet. So, and I don't think there's really much time for anybody to submit anything, so I think we might have a really good opportunity next time to really just power through a lot of that discussion.
Okay.
Could you put those maps on an overhead?
Yeah,
So, I think you've done this before, where you can actually, you are pointing to what we're talking about.
Sure.
So we are all fumbling on our individual maps looking for it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, we can do that. That's not a problem at all. We can even have one of those giant maps, like the one I just gave you out here, and
I'm not giving it back.
mark it up or something. We can make sure that it's, and the thing about putting it up there is it's visible for everyone.
Exactly.
You know, so they're not
And
looking
then
at
the-
us, looking at papers in front of us.
Okay. Any questions for Joe in terms of what we need to do between now and next meeting? I do think that'll be, when we get into the meat of what this effort was about.
Never hurts to drive past all these places.
Yeah, I agree. I would encourage you to drive around.
That's a good suggestion.
All right. Anything else? Thank you, Joe. That takes us to 10E, agribusiness and agritourism.
Nothing, although I think, this is kind of where we were, our subcommittee's head was on that.
Sure.
And this does provide, this input provides, it's very good, because I think it pretty much tells us what we need to do with our existing ordinance, where we may want to restrict opportunities over and above what people have the right, under the Right to Farm Act to do.
Sure.
But to also flesh out that existing subsection that tells us the things that must be considered and looked at.
Right.
And to really lock that in so that commissioners, us or some future commission, won't go off the rails with some of this stuff and end up in the wrong place.
Sure, yeah.
But still, support the agricultural interest.
Right.
Okay. So, Emery, you kind of anticipating that in a future meeting, there'd be an ordinance language to review?
It depends on what everybody thinks and what our subcommittee,
Okay.
Mandy and Rick and I would get together. I don't want to jump the gun too far.
Right, sure.
And get to the point of having something crafted, then we have town halls and, we're hearing something else. But I don't think it'd be too hard.
Okay. All right, thank you. That takes us to item 10F, which is 5G.
I do not have an update on that.
No update tonight, thank you. That takes us to item 11. Been a long night to get here. Item 11 is, item 11A, discussion for lot depth. So I know, commissioners, when Dana sent out the packet information for this meeting, she also provided some background on what this particular discussion was about. So if you'll recall, the Lombardo Bruce Orchards development project that has been before us quite a few times now, dating back to August of last year when we first reviewed it. So just a quick recap, couple of iterations of the plan. Ultimately, that the group of parcels, which is a mix of residential and commercial, ultimately was approved by the Planning Commission with an R1B density. When we went through the site plan review, it was brought up that there was a couple items that would take them to zoning for variance approval, and one of those was lot depth. So the applicants have proposed a private road to be part of that development. The Macomb County Road Commission is not accepting new roads in Bruce Township. Did I clarify that correctly? Or anywhere? So really, the only way that development projects happen right now is through the use of private roads. Our ordinance includes a requirement that if it is a private road, that the minimum lot depth has to be 200 feet. If it was a public road, that wouldn't be a requirement. We didn't, I don't think we had clarity on that rule when we approved the initial project, because it met the density requirements that we were looking for, that area called for, so it was within the required zoning. So however, there are a number of properties that don't meet or even really come close to that minimum 200-foot lot depth, so after much discussion at the zoning board meeting, there was a request to send it back to the planning commission to consider, is this requirement something we perceive as valuable and the right requirement to have within our ordinance. So that's what we have been asked to kind of consider, if that's something we want to update, potentially remove. Like I said, the same development, if it was a public road in this development, wouldn't have any depth restrictions other than just the standard building setbacks.
I think there's a corollary to that too, which is that when we're looking at that section, we have a standard that says you've got to have a public road if you're doing a site condo, and that's obviously not practical with county policy at the moment. So I think we'd want to look at that as well when we're looking at this lot depth standard.
Joe, in our existing ordinance wherein this comes up, is the 200 feet stated as an absolute, or is it from 200 feet from something to something?
It would be 200 feet from the front property line, so the edge of the road right of way, to the rear property line.
So what's really driving it is the road?
Yeah, basically, yeah, because it's a private road and the standard only applies if the road is private. The other thing is that we know the standard's been in the ordinance for quite a long time, and we didn't have R1B and R1C zoning when the standard was originally adopted. It was, 200 feet of lot depth is nothing out in the R1 district.
Exactly.
It's nothing in the RS district. But when you start to get down into the R1B and R1C districts, that's a lot. It can even lead to kind of weirdly narrow lots in the R1C. So it's a less practical standard for those districts than it is when you get outside of the water and sewer district area where we have R1B and R1C.
How did the
zoning.
Timbers get approved?
That was a consent
That's a
judgment, I
private
think.
road, isn't it?
I think it's a consent judgment.
It is consent.
So that then pretty much negated what the ordinance is.
Yeah, we have a couple of those.
I was going to ask if we have any other newer subdivisions.
Cloverfield?
Which is also a consent judgment, right?
Where, somehow they got by.
I think the other one we looked at was McVicker Meadows,
Yeah, I think.
which is a private road and does not have,
Right, that's very interesting,
200 feet.
because they're RM1, and when I looked over the ordinance, it doesn't appear that any of this applies to RM1.
Yeah, I don't,
It speaks to single-family residential.
right.
And I mean, I also say that because where I live is a private road, and it's RM1, and we're nowhere near that.
right. Yeah, maybe that's how they got around it for that particular development.
Yeah.
Need some clarification. For public road, are we dealing with easement or are we dealing with right-of-way here, first off?
So a public road is a dedicated right-of-way. It is public property. A private road is always an easement, and there are two ways to do that. One is if you're doing lot splits, you will have property lines that are likely in the middle of the road. And then there is an easement that is laid on those properties wherein certain activities are restricted. So you can build a road there, and then you've got to keep certain clearances, and maybe there's drainage ditches or something. But that's done by an easement laid over portions of those properties. When you have a site condominium, typically what you do is you take the road out of the lots, and it is its own piece of property that is treated as a general common element of the site condominium. So it's commonly held property by all of the different landowners in there. And then your master deed and bylaws establish an association that is responsible for taking care of that road.
Okay, so but the right-of-way difference between public and private, what's the difference between the two values?
Well, they, under our ordinances, they all have to meet the county standards. Just looking at it from an appearance standpoint, there is no difference. You get the same width of road, you get the same curb heights, you get the same everything. It's just a matter of how ownership is organized on that piece of.
But when it's a private road, it's a larger value, right?
Value.
It's a wider right-of-way.
The public road is the wider.
They have the same. It's 60 feet of right-of-way is what's required, whether it's private or public.
Okay, well, I
But we're
mean,
working with a 30-foot right of
Are
way,
you asking
28-foot
from
road.
the back to the center or from the easement to the back?
well, basically, the lot depth is from the right-of-way to the back.
Exactly, it's from the
back
front
of the
property
lot.
line.
So they're looking for a 30-foot right-of-way versus what's required for private road, which is 60.
That's correct.
So the net result is the houses will be 30 feet closer to the road. Because the setback is from the right of way.
In this case, yes.
So that's, when it boils down to, that's what we're looking at. I mean, on one hand, going from the 60 to the 30, does that allow them to meet, for at least most of the lots, the 200-foot depth requirement?
I don't recall the percentage
No.
of lots.
No, not even close.
It's not a majority, but there's a few.
Okay, so.
About half of them, I think.
Okay, so their lot width is 125. So you take 20,000 divided by 125. Okay, so from the right-of-way to the rear of the property, maintaining the 20,000 square foot minimum with a 125 feet of frontage from the right-of-way to the rear of the lot, they've got to be at least 160 feet in depth.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that they're all basically rectangular.
I think there was a lot of variation to that. Some lots were just
Some are
right around
deep and
100 feet, and then
triangular,
some were, much wider because they were triangles.
Right.
And then they had a lot of frontage.
So are you assured that this would not be an issue in R1 or R1A?
Well, I mean, I would say that you would probably not remove the requirement of the 200-foot depth for R1 and RS, because their lots are huge there, so you're always going to be able to get that. R1A, I'd have to look at in a little more detail.
The reason I'm asking is because I don't think we have any undeveloped R1C now at all.
I think you're correct.
Maybe a random lot up on Mellon Street, maybe. I think we only have maybe just one R1B acreage up McVicker at the end.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right. So I'm just trying to figure out, how big of an issue is this?
Yeah, it affects to the R1 2-acre parcels especially. or potential effects to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
And we
think-
have a lot
I don't
of
think
that.
you'd include them. If you were eliminating it to the 200-foot, I think you would keep it for R1 and RS.
But the ZBA, because of the amount of the variance, I assume that's why it came back to PC so large, that what we do here becomes the new standard for all R1B, right? It's not just applicable to this
Right.
development specifically.
Yeah, correct.
So what it boils down to is, do we want to allow the houses to be closer to the road?
Well, the 200-foot lot depth doesn't affect that. The variance they're seeking for the width of the right-of-way is what affects that. The 200-foot depth is a separate issue.
Right, but what they're looking for is the right-of-way to pull the houses further forward with the available lot depth they have to be able to put rear patios off the back of the house and some other enhancements. So, I mean, but what it boils down to for people, residents driving by is, oh, these houses are closer than what we typically have seen in other R1B developments by probably a considerable amount, right? Another 30 feet closer to the road,
Potentially, yeah.
that's a lot.
Well, 15 feet, because it's 15 feet on
On
each
each
side.
15 feet on either side,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
But from a practical standpoint, other developments in the township that have public roads would be no different. They don't have the standard.
Well, they don't have the 200-foot depth standard. They do have the 60-foot right-of-way.
Okay.
So 15 feet closer to the,
Yes, yeah, because half of that additional 30 feet would
Okay.
be on either side.
all right.
Just because this is an actual case right now, if we decided not to do anything with our existing ordinance, what kind of impact is that going to have on what we already approved?
Well, that would depend on what the zoning board of appeals does. If the zoning board of appeals denies it, then they don't have an approved plan.
Then what?
Then they don't have an approved plan. Because
Correct. And
They
in
have to go
order
back to
to
the
come
drawing
back with
board.
an approved plan, I'm assuming there has to be elimination of lots and reconfiguring.
Yeah, there would have to be.
So we talked about this afternoon, we had a special board meeting about this very thing with the right-of-way for this road, 30 feet as opposed to the 60 feet. And we were just, if we had to stick with the 60-foot right-of-way, then some of the other conditions were probably going to go away, because you can only have an 800-foot long road at that point, so they would have to access out on Mellon Street.
Right.
If we do, so some of the conditions, and we were going around a little bit, it was a special board meeting, because at the last regular board meeting, they were discussing whether or not we could approve that. So there's two ordinances, 187 and 135. 187 says you can't, but 135 covering subdivision says that the board can approve.
The waiver position in it too.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that was, and so we ended up approving it. We will be looking at that again, but we did hear that this was coming back for this lot depth.
I think, what I can do for you next time is give you some illustrations that kind of show you what we're dealing with. And maybe make it a little, try to clarify it spatially for you, so that it's something you're looking at rather than something that we're discussing in the air.
So for the Lombardo development, David, a waiver was granted by the board. Did I understand that correctly, or no? For, I guess, generically going forward with their development for the reduced right-of-way, or is that something? that-
Correct. We did it at the planning commission. We approved a 30-foot right-of-way.
Okay.
And the board approved the same one. It was basically the exact same motion at the board.
Okay.
And then, so they have, basically, the two bodies that approved that have already approved it. And now, there was some question as to whether or not we could grant them the 30-foot right-of-way.
Well, I think the wording included it was pending ZBA approval.
Yeah.
Might have been.
So, but the ZBA is not comfortable with granting that approval, so it bounced it back to the TC. But I guess what I'm trying to determine here is whether what the board has done thus far has superseded what the.
No,
the
because it's a
PCDs
separate
do.
issue.
Different thing.
Yeah,
We didn't
so
talk
it's a
about
separate issue.
lot depth
Yeah, it's two
today.
different
We only
things.
talked about right-of-way.
Okay.
And the only thing that really changed is the right-of-way changes the building envelope is how Mr. Lombardo referred to it today, that his building envelope gets really small if he would have to honor that 60-foot right-of-way. And it's not conducive to the style of homes that he's agreed to build in there. You know, that's that size building envelope.
So, what we'd be asked to do is consider we've already granted a conditional approval, so, I mean, it's like but it doesn't meet the lot depth required for R1B. So, and we didn't spell that out originally.
It does meet it R1B in a platted subdivision. It does not meet it in a condo development.
Right.
Okay, so he could plat that whole thing if he had to. He could do platted lots if he had to. But, I mean, he would rather just stick with the condo development.
Right. That's partly a time frame thing, because it takes a couple of years to get a plat done usually, because of all the state approvals.
You'd end up with the exact same thing. Would be no different.
Okay, so I guess you'd understand our options and ramifications
Sure.
of each.
Yep, I can do that for you.
It's helpful to actually look at the materials that were in the ZBA package, where everything is outlined in terms of the outliers.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you can even see them on the little map, you know,
Yeah.
where it's indicated.
Right, yeah, that center, kind of, we'll call it an island, where the road goes around and there's 4 lots in the middle, those are the ones
Right.
that are shallowest.
And as I recall, ironically, that was, doing that configuration was one of the reasons that the thing was approved, because doing that eliminated the access out onto Mellon Street,
Exactly.
which would not have been good.
Right,
Some of the lots at the front of the sub as well, where the road curves around they have
Weird.
more frontage and less depth.
Yeah.
Just because they have to.
right, they're kind of wider than they are deep.
And Joe, from our conversation, just to clarify, this is not a standard or thing you've seen in other ordinances?
I haven't seen this 200
This isn't something
foot
common that,
thing.
okay.
I've never seen it anywhere else, so I don't know where it came from originally, or if it was just because we were looking at huge lots back when it was originally adopted, or I really don't know.
Well, it was in this 1990 zoning.
Yeah, right.
ordinance,
It was
exactly like
goes
it is
back-
now.
It goes back quite a ways.
And it may have been there from the beginning.
It's possible.
Joe, during a recent phone conversation, offline conversation, you mentioned that Washington Township has gone to their lot depth from road center versus from right of way. Did I understand that correctly?
There are some, I can't remember if Washington is one, but there are some communities that do that. There are also communities that do their setbacks from the center line of the road rather than the front property line. Though that's usually done because you have planned right-of-way that doesn't match your existing right-of-way. So you've got like a planned 120 and you've got lots of properties that are close in, so you have an actual 100-foot, so they'll measure from the center line so that they can align it to where the road's supposed to be in the future. So yeah, there are little things you can do like that,
Does that simplify our current method, or?
yeah, I mean, it could. I guess I'd have to kind of compare it side by side and
Something to think about at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, I could maybe show you what it would look like from the center line.
Okay, so I guess next steps would be to have Joe come back with some additional info and potentially some proposed language of how we might tweak this, if that's something we were interested in doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely do that.
All right. We'll carry that into the next meeting then. That takes us to item 12, comments from committees or consultants. Any other discussion? Comments from commissioners? All right, hearing none. Move to adjourn at 9:20 PM.
Second?
Seconded by Hagelstein. All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned.
Okey dokey.